Welcome back to the Raw Mind Talk. In studio, we have David Sempala, and he's trying to deconstruct for us sustainability and the step-by-step methods or steps that we can incorporate in our daily so that we can be part of the agenda. And he has given us an in-depth discussion from where he realized the problem, acquired information, went on to also now start an organization that puts sustainability into practice. He has given us the 3 steps, the 3 people that are concerned, you from a family level, government, and the international level. But now we want to ask him very interesting questions when it comes to sustainability. We know many of these conferences and trainings happen in high-end hotels, 6 stars, or happen across the continent in different areas or regions. But we are trying to think for this person who is at home. As you've said, sustainability starts from a household level. But we have failed to actually go to the household level. What are the challenges, or how can we move now from ACs to big hotels now to transition into family levels to understand that actually, as you put it, it starts with me so that I can leave something for the next generation to come?
Yeah, thank you very much, Gardner. So there are, like you said, there are so many of these kind of discussions that have happened both at local, regional, and international level. The biggest one, you would say, the biggest one on this subject matter happened 10 years ago in Paris. So in Paris, there's a pact which 193 countries signed. It's called the Paris Climate Agreement. So the Paris Climate Agreement kind of identified that this is a problem we have, because 97 or 98% of scientists have unanimously agreed that there is a problem of climate change and it is happening. You understand? Now, because of that, and it's affecting the world.
And we can't run away from
and
it.
we can't run away from it. So back in 2015 in Paris, countries, 193 countries of the world, agreed and say, you know what, we need to put this issue as part of the global strategic agenda. It meant that each and every country had to come up with what you call national determined contributions towards changing climate in a better way. And the main purpose at that time, or 2015, 10 years ago, is to ensure that the world reduces its global warming capacity. We don't go up to 2 degrees, at least we come below at about, the target was about 1.5 degrees Celsius. Because we agree that climate change is happening, and we may not necessarily solve the whole problem, but we need to reduce the rate. We need to reduce the speed at which we are moving. I forgot to tell you a statistic at the beginning when we are deconstructing climate change. The warmest years ever in the world happened in 2018 and 2024. Like in the world, there has never been
That was so soon.
That was so soon, 2024, recently.
Yeah.
So that's when we've got the hottest temperature ever. So we want to ensure that we reduce. We reduce. We are not necessarily going to tell you that we want to get back to normal, but we reduce at the rate at which we are running. It's like you cruising from Kampala to Kabale at a supersonic speed, and somebody tells you, you know what, reduce. You know, and it's not telling you to stop. That's what I'm saying. We're not telling people to stop on industrialization.
We are not.
Exactly. We're not telling you to stop cooking because you need to eat, but we're telling you to reduce on everything we do and recycle everything we do. And part of the reducing is to recycle. So that agreement happened in 2015 in Paris, and all countries set targets. However, there are countries that have actually moved. You understand? Because each country had to come up with its own way of looking at its country in its own way. So countries like Nordic countries have really improved, and I think EU came up with the EU agenda. Africa was still lagging behind, largely because of poverty. Poverty is affecting us in many ways. And there are also other avenues. Not all it's not all bad situation. There are avenues that are likely to come. There are new players that are coming in, especially in investing in green growth activities, in green finance. So the movement is trying to ensure that private sector gets involved, because you see, private sector is very important. Private sector is what transforms the world in most cases. So there are things we want to look at. So, for instance, I'll give you a scenario. You could have a mother in a rural area, in a village like Ruoji in Ruel, and this mother sits on a 2-acre piece of land, and in that land, maybe she inherited it from her father, but in that land there are like 10 trees, and she needs to take her child to school. What should she do? Should she say, and somebody, Gardner, comes from Kampala and say, I need these trees so that I want to cut wood. You understand? At the moment, the way we are moving, more likely, because of she needs the money, she's going to give Gardner. But these trees could be 20 years and they are producing a lot of carbon credits. So part of the discussions that are going on is to ensure that we provide some sort of carbon money. And carbon money can come from industrialists who wants to offset. Because this lady has 10 trees, but these trees are producing carbon footprints that are helping the world. And then there is one who is making money outside in Kampala who is polluting. So if he's making money, can she come and pay this lady so that she doesn't cut these trees? These trees stay there. So in the future, in the next couple of years, you're likely to see program agendas that are going to come, which is going to pay people for their forests. And this is what likely to happen from the industrialized countries of the world. They could be able to bring in money, and you get paid for keeping your forest. Because now these are things that are going to support the community. Because I don't have money to take my child to school, I may need money in my forest. So there are things that are going to come up with. But the others which are coming up with, to be able to translate, you have to speak to the policymakers at national level and also to industrialists. The industrialists need to raise their ambition into investing into sustainable revolution. There are things that sustainable technologies should come up, things like solar irrigation schemes should come out to help local people. Solar panels should come up to help local people. Solar, there are lots of what in Uganda we call it, where you keep post-harvest programs, where you could build it and add a solar panel. I'll give you an example. Like in my office, or on top of my office, we have now installed a solar panel, so we don't have any umeme issues there. So, and the purpose why we are investing into that, because we don't want umeme to affect, or umeme or EDCL to affect our productivity. So that's why we installed the solar panel. So you want this solar movement to come up more. You want the entire green money to start flowing into the rural areas, so that people have access to money, to economy, to put some monetary alternatives into the things. So there are so many things, but it has to be done both at the structures or the policies have to be done at country level, so that they create an enabling environment to allow a local person to do something. And that's what these agreements which you talked about happening in the ECs, in the SCs, are supposed to discuss, but also implement.
Go to the grassroots.
Or come up with a policy that will allow. So for instance, if you say there are things that are still going on in the world, things like carbon tax to be embedded to industrialists. So if a carbon tax is introduced, for example, I'll give you an example. A company like a Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Uganda Brewers or Nile Brewers, they are producers of products. They employ many people. We don't want them to go away. because they contribute to our national GDP. But if you're able to produce, to get carbon tax from them, then you get this tax and invest it in the rural communities. And then you provide free education. That means you're not, affecting the locals so much. So those things have to come up. Things like sustainable procurements have to be embedded into our game. So organization work with sustainable suppliers. Things like sustainable construction. Before you approve a permit, you have to demonstrate that you're likely to have a solar panel. So just like we bring electricity into this house, we should be mandated by the law to have a solar panel on top, so that you don't create pressure. So the policies have to translate, and it can only translate through reducing the knowledge gap, coming up with a legal environment, a legal and regulatory environment, and also coming up with financial incentives and financial infrastructures to support the locals to be able to embrace this kind of activities.
I was listening, and you talked about, as you've ended saying, we need those financial muscles to support the locals so they can be able to embed these policies, these projects in. But I was thinking, you talked about the tree, that old lady who has 5 trees. And for me, I'm looking at the aspect of survival versus sustainability, because you won't tell the pastoralists in the Sahel region to move away because the animals are eating up the grass, and actually it's becoming deforestation in the long run. You can't tell the people, the fishermen in Lake Victoria, to stop fishing during the breeding period, because for them, they're looking at how can I survive now? Now, what are some of the aspects? You have tried to allude to them, but I think we need to now bring in that understanding a little bit deeper. How can I be supplemented, right? Because I need to survive now. And if I have those 3 trees and my child has to go back to school, you cannot tell me to save for the future. This is sustainability, this is blah, blah, blah. At this point in time, I need the money. So how can we broaden to look at the survival aspect and how it correlates with sustainability? Because
the main thing is we really need to put into perspective about this money thing. I think the world has become more greedier. We are more greedy. Those who are earning a lot, they are earning a lot.
A lot, yes.
You understand? And you need, and companies have to reflect.
Yes.
So for instance, companies, you've seen that in between around June, July, companies publish figures, and they say we have made 231 billion, as a company. But you see, when you speak that to somebody who has not eaten food, I don't know whether it's all background noise. You understand? And I don't know. I know some of these publications are regulatory in nature, but I think we need to create a society which is. I think it's always good to have a society that's in between the middle. The happiest countries in the world are not necessarily the richest.
Yes.
You understand? According to the Global Happiness Index, I think the happiest countries are Nordic countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. These countries, because they have mastered the game of being in the middle. You are not too poor, neither too rich. So now the problem with capitalism, the so-called capitalism of the West, is that it empowers a richer man to become more richer, and then the poor become more poorer. So we need to come up with the ways that will support companies or corporations or government to raise their ambitions into investing in communities. And part of the way they invest in communities should be through the main key things which the community needs. They need access to water, they need access to health centers, they need access, and not necessarily access, just access, but You provide quality
yes.
health services to these people. You provide quality education. You provide quality roads. You understand? You provide so the people who are actually making money. If you know that you are making money, me, I don't want you to declare profits and say, okay, I have made 270 billion half year profits, but I will need to see what are you actually investing in society. And the more we learn how to invest in society, both as at government level, because you see, private sector, they tend to come up with this excuse that, for us, we are paying the tax. And when you're paying the tax, and that's all. But that's not all. You should raise your ambition into investing more into the communities. And practically, and again, it's a challenge to mind heritage. One of the things which we are laboring so much is you've heard of what called paper economics.
Yes.
Guys, every single end of the year, they go to Serena, the conferences, and they discuss the GDP, the inflation rate. These things are very nice to hear, that Uganda has its inflation is low, it's about 4%. We have improved by 13 today. NSSF has declared 13.5. However, it doesn't make a lot of sense when a bigger portion of the population is left behind. These are good figures. The real questions in these rooms should be, how many Ugandans have access to clean water, for instance? I'll give you a worrying statistics on roads. Uganda has 159,336 kilometers of roads in total. And out of those, the roads that are tarmacs, kilometers of road, are only 6,336, which represents a 4%. You understand?
Yeah.
So you want this woman in the rural area to be able to move faster to go to the health center because the road is there. That's how, and the health center where she can access at least a service or a free service or a basic service. And it can only happen if we raise our ambition into investing in societies. And that's what governments should do. That's what private sector should do. It shouldn't be a government thing alone. Governments must invest part of their money into communities. Private sector must invest their money. Because if we don't create, and I'm speaking from the private sector driven approach, if we don't create a strong society that can be able to buy our products, we are just useless, because we are creating islands of prosperity surrounded by a sea of poverty. That's exactly what we are creating, which is extremely bad and dangerous.
Islands of prosperity
surrounded by a sea of poverty.
Absolutely. I couldn't put it any better. But I really appreciate, because now we are moving from the AC, from the international arena, now bringing it back home. And for me, what you've said is that we need to bring these policies, these initiatives, this mindset back to the family level.
Exactly.
How can I survive to survive? Not just have things, because if I have things and I have an avenue, whoever comes, I'll exchange. We have seen it happen. But before we go for a short break, we'll come back to deconstruct now. What are some of the things that we have learned along the way? What are these organizations, for example, doing in their corporate social responsibility? What are they doing, or what can they do better? What can government do? What can me as an individual, right way back home, how can I bring sustainability and climate change mindset and ideas back into my home so that we can generally save ourselves tomorrow? Thank you.